So yes, welcome. My name is Jay Chodagam. I'm a meditation teacher here in the San Francisco Bay Area. I've been practicing for about 20 years, been teaching for 15. And thanks to COVID, everything has been pushed online. And thanks to Insight Timer, we're able to connect from your convenient bedroom or living room to my living room here in Mountain View, California. So I've been doing these sessions non-stop since the pandemic began. Some of my friends started reaching out and saying, Jay, we don't know how long this is going to go on. There's so much uncertainty, doubt, and fear. FUD, as you might have heard that word. And we started just gathering. We just started gathering every day to begin with. And then slowly we pared that down to once a week. And here we are, 75 episodes later. This thing goes on. The pandemic keeps getting extended, and therefore we keep connecting. We can continue to gather around this Wednesday nights. I call it, this is my soul tribe. You are my soul tribe. So welcome to the soul tribe if you're new to it. And we've been supporting each other by just sharing stories and sharing wisdom that we've gathered and finding ways of coping with the real strange circumstances that we've not been in, we've not exposed to, we were not prepared for this. So thank you for joining me here. Thank you for being part of the Soul Tribe. So the agenda for today is going to be as follows. We're going to start with some breath work, pranayama, and then we're going to go into a wisdom sharing, some stories, and then we're going to take that into a somatic practice. We're going to take it into a meditation to bring that into an application, into the body, into the heart. And then we're going to open it up for some Q&A. And at the time of the Q&A, I ask that you go ahead and ask questions. And even if you think you've asked me these questions at the beginning, while I'm talking, it's very hard for me to pay attention to what's happening in the chat window. So I encourage you to please go ahead and post those questions during that window when I open it up for Q&A. How's that for a flow? Yes, third emergency stay-at-home orders in Canada, so tough. Yes, and I know that there's waves everywhere. Some countries like Brazil, Mexico, and my family and friends in India are completely under strict lockdown orders. It's the pandemic is worse than it's been ever since the beginning. And the daily death rates are just alarming. So folks, hang in there. We're going to get to the other side of it, but you need to have patience. You need to have self-love, and you need to have faith that we're just going to be able to get through this thing. And there's lessons to learn, and we're going to talk about those lessons today, because Mother Nature is here to tell us something that we need to learn. We've completely veered away. We've gone off course. We've gone so far away from ourselves, let alone community and Mother Earth, etc. So this is all a lesson. So we're going to talk about some of that today. And let's dive in with some breathing breathwork exercises, pranayama, ancient Indian wisdom around the art of building resilience and immunity. So I ask that you keep your eyes closed or downshift your gaze if you feel that's more comfortable. Hands in Vayu Mudras, that means the tips of my index finger are touching the tips of my thumb, resting my arms on my lap, palms facing upwards. Breathing in for a count of 5 through the nostrils. Then exhaling for a count of 5 through the mouth. Inhale nice and deep. Exhale through the mouth, letting go. And when I ask you to inhale through the nostrils, I want you to breathe into your diaphragm. So let your belly expand and collapse, not your chest. And as you release, you find that the belly is falling towards the spine. And you learn to breathe nice and deep like this, you automatically begin to relax the body. Now let's take in a breath of air filling our belly, and this time on the exhale, let's exhale for a count of 10 to the chant of Om. Om. Let's do this 2 more times. Last round. Allowing regular breathing, breathing nice and deep into the belly for a count of 5, and exhaling for a count of 5 through the mouth. Continue doing this regular rhythmic breathing, and I will give you instructions to what we're going to do next. So the next round is what we call breath of fire, or Kapalbhati, and if you've been to my previous sessions, you've seen me do this many times. This is where I use my diaphragm to do the exhale, and it comes out as a short burst. It comes out through the nostril, mouth is closed at all times, and the focus is on the exhalation, because once you know how to give, the universe will show you how to take. So it look like this if you're doing this right. So again, my spine is straight, eyes closed, body relaxed, shoulders dropped, and when I'm doing this right, it look like so. So notice I'm giving out a short burst coming from the diaphragm. It's originated there, and then I just continue to focus on the exhale. The body knows how to take it in. So we're going to do this for a count of 21. Take a little break. 21. Take a break. 21. When I say take a break, I don't mean hold your breath. I'm not asking you to do that. However, what I will guide you to is actually elongating how long you keep the inhale. Between the inhale and the exhale, we will expand that space. So we will actually retain the breath in our lungs for an extended period of time. And I'll tell you there's a lot of benefit in that. So we'll do it together, and I will teach you what those benefits are as we go through this. So, okay, together again, fingers in Vayu Mudra, arms rested on my lap, palms facing upwards, taking a deep breath into the belly, 3/4 of a breath out, and let's start the first round of 21. Take a break from the breathing, just allow a regular full cycle of breath, inhaling, exhaling, inhaling, and now at the top of the lungs, when the lungs are full, I want you to hold. Hold till I tell you to do so, or as long as you can hold. If you find it very uncomfortable, it's okay. You can release your air, but as long as you can try to keep it with me, stay with me. I ask you to hold, and then I'll tell you when to exhale. Six, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Exhale. Taking a full deep breath of air in. And this time 3/4 of a breath out, and we go into our second round of Kapalbhati. Taking a break from this exercise, just allow rhythmic breathing, just full cycle of breath in and out, exhale. Taking a full breath in, exhale, and this time at the bottom of the lungs, I want you to hold. Hold till I tell you, or as long as you can. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Inhale. Well done, folks. Thank you for trusting me on this. This is a very powerful exercise. As you continue to inhale and exhale, I'll tell you, this process of holding breath deeply enhances the percentage of oxygen that you're actually assimilating into the body. And as you do so, you're giving the body the much needed prana, the breath of life, the air, the oxygen that keeps this body alive and keeps every cell revitalized and nourished. Now, taking one full cycle of breath in and out. And as you're exhaling, I want you to allow 3/4 of breath to be exhaled. And then let's go into the third and the final round. We're going to do it for a count of 42 Kapalbhati exhalations. And we take a break from this exercise, a loving, just regular breathing, inhaling, exhaling. And on the next inhale, at the top of the lungs, I want you to hold till I tell you. And as you're holding your breath, I want you to squeeze the muscles in your buttocks, squeeze the muscles in your thighs, your hamstrings, the ankles, the calf muscles, coming into the abdomen, the chest. Squeeze your chest, squeeze the muscles in your back, the shoulders, squeeze the arms, the biceps, the triceps, forearms, fist, making a tight fist, clenching your fingers. Squeeze the muscles in your face. Squeeze the muscles in your neck. And see if you can squeeze the muscles on your scalp by stretching your forehead, making a frown. And exhale. Regular breathing in and out. And as you do so, just observe how you feel different right now than when you came in here 15 minutes ago. Notice how just this conscious breathing, holding and elongating our breath, what it has done for you. While there's a lot of practices that focus on following your breath, there's a whole deep ancient wisdom that focuses on these three things: the holding, the elongation, and the deepening of our breath. It's because you see, whole day when we're getting distracted, when we get these messages, when we get tweets, when we get all these different signals that distract us, whether we realize it or not, what's happening is that we're holding our breath. We're preventing the body from getting this much needed oxygen. And so when you take time like this to alter your breath, to control your breath, to deepen your breath, to elongate your breath, you're compensating for the times when you've deprived your body of that oxygen. All right, so now let's go into our third and our final set for this pranayama exercise. In this exercise, what you'll do is you'll breathe into your chest. This time, notice I'm saying chest is different from the ones before. I'll breathe into my chest and then I will put my arms, like so, on my shoulders, and with my lungs full, eyes closed, I will rotate my arms, holding my full chest. Okay, this is what it's going to look like. And try to make the rotation as nice and big. Expand that circle that you're drawing with the elbows as best as you can. Okay, so now then I'll ask you to flip, which means reverse the direction. So we do the same thing, holding our breath the other way around. Okay, so let's do it together. Taking a full breath into your chest, filling and then holding. And we're going to do 7 circles in either directions. Let's start. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Reverse while still holding. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Exhale. And 1 cycle of full breath in and out. And now let's go for round 2, full breath in, and let's begin the rotation for a count of 7. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and reverse while still holding your breath. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Just regular breathing. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. And then we go in the next inhalation. We're going to hold and go into the 3rd and final round of this bandha. This is a bandha, which means holding breath. And rotate. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Reverse direction. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and exhale. Letting your arms rest on your laps or on the arms of your chair, or if you're lying down on the floor next to you or on the bed. And let's just go back into the rhythmic breathing. Breathing in for a count of 5. And exhaling through the mouth for a count of 5. And as you do so, just notice how the pace of your thoughts in your mind have changed in these last few minutes. Notice how your body feels more relaxed. Your breath is nice and deep. And you're feeling a sense of lightness perhaps in your entire being. Now let's move on to the second phase of this tonight's workshop. We're going to be talking about the topic which is around something that you have asked for. One of you has posted this on my circle and asked me to talk about coping with grief and loss during the pandemic. Folks, we've all been through this. We've all seen, we've heard stories, traumatic ones, really heart-wrenching stories. And then, as some of you pointed out just at the beginning of this session, that seemingly it is getting worse than it's ever been before. And know that it needs to get to that point, because we don't seem to be learning from what the message that Mother Nature is trying to teach us here. We're getting lax in the way that we're going about things, but there's one thing for sure, whether we're taking precautions or not, that globally, as a world family, we're all experiencing some form of loss, and we're grieving in some way, shape, or form. Whether we're doing it alone, whether we're doing it as a community, whether we're doing it with family, if we lived with other people, that's great. If you don't, then perhaps there are going to be things that I'm going to teach you today, the importance of learning how to grieve. Now, first of all, I want to talk to you today about the difference between sadness and grief. Because a lot of times you confuse the two, and it's important to be able to understand the distinction. So, as humans, we have one aspect of our being, which is that we are all beings that are emotional. So we all emote, we have emotions, and they come up like fear, anger, ego, etc. And these emotions come and they stay for a little while, perhaps for a few seconds, maybe for a minute, a few minutes, and then you see them waning and dying off. So sadness is one such emotion. Now, sometimes this, when it lingers a whole lot longer than a few seconds or a minute, then it could be your mood, right? You could be in a sad mood that might be lasting for several hours or maybe a day or so. Now, grief can be a combination of a number of different emotions. Now, you could feel a sense of rage, you could feel a sense of loss, you could feel a sense of sadness, you could feel anxiety, you could feel anger. Anger is one of the typical things that at some process of your grieving, you will feel that. And you will feel disillusion, where you feel like you've lost appetite, you're not able to sleep well, right? Insomnia kicks in. Now, the fundamental difference between sadness and grief is that sadness comes to help you accept something, right? It helps you to face it. It helps you to realize it. Grief, on the other hand, helps you to overcome and get to the other side. Now, so when grief happens in the way it's supposed, when you're able to process it, when you're able to give it time, when you're able to go through those emotions, go through that process, you come out more resilient. Okay? Now, I have heard some real sad stories lately among my families and my relatives and friends. And there's this one childhood friend of mine I grew up with, I went to high school with. His father recently passed away in India with COVID-19. And the scenario is so sad that they weren't able to be there to receive the body. They weren't able to perform the last rites. And as you probably know, for us, or for anybody, I guess, the cremation is a very important part when you pass, when you love that soul, when you're allowing it to transition into the afterlife, and as it goes on in its journey. That transition phase is a very important ceremony that's been practiced for centuries, for generations in our culture. And so what we're seeing now, because of the mandatory stay-at-home orders, because of the quarantining and trying to prevent that body from spreading the disease further, what's happening is that there is absolutely no contact. You can't even go see the body, let alone do the last rites. So then I had participated in this very unique ceremony where my friend and their family all gathered in one home, the immediate set of 3 people that are left in that family, and they did a live stream of that in Zoom. And then so there was a pandit, which means a priest, a Hindu priest, who was doing the ceremony from another remote location through Zoom. And we were on Facebook Live and watching that ceremony as these 3 entities. So you have the families in the home that have gathered, the immediate part. You've got the priest that is, through telecast, through a live teleconference, guiding and saying the prayers and the chants, etc. And then the rest of us, participating from around the world, and then the body is somewhere else, right? And then recently, I just had a phone conversation with my mother yesterday, and the numbers in India have gone through the roof to such a point where entire families are getting affected. And, we are living in times where, the families are nuclear families, they get dissipated. One child is living in another country, another child is living in another city, and then the parents are probably, they're old and they're living in their home, the family home. And imagine if both the parents are infected and they're affected and they die, or one is, on the ventilator and the other one has actually passed away. And then imagine that the 2 children that are left, one of them is autistic. And so that leaves us with the 4th person. The only person that is healthy is now living on the other side of the globe in America. and then now sits with this conundrum whether to leave all the the comforts or the safety of being in quarantine in their home, and then having to fly back because the last of their loved ones is there, and they need to be there to do whatever they need to do, the ceremonies and the requirements of as the sole survivor of the family. So these are very, very challenging times, and some of these decisions are not easy, and I have no way I can try to simplify the issue, or I can say that I have tips and tricks on how you can navigate this seemingly very, very complex system between the medical, between the familial, between the emotional experience, and then of course you've got the politics and the laws of the land. And when a lot of countries are shut down from one another, they're not allowing the traffic of flights to come in and out of their places. So it's a very, very hard thing. Now, whether you're one of those people who's experienced an immediate loss of a loved one, which means a loss of life in your family, or it could be many other losses that you're grieving from, right? So now I want you to recognize that when you get removed from your routine, so whether it means whether your consistent job that was giving you a sense of sustenance, now whether it could be your community, your family, your relatives, your friends, your social circle that you were part of, and that being disrupted. Now that could be a grieving that in itself. Or you had a religious community, you had a spiritual commune or a discipline where you probably went to church every Sunday, you gathered every Wednesday in person in a gathering that was your real go-to kind of place where you felt like you found your center. And the fact that that kind of gatherings have been banned for the last 1 year, now that could be a source of grieving. Or it could be things like, you have a child, or you have a niece or a nephew, or you have a family that is graduated, there's a birthday party, there is an anniversary that you cannot now celebrate together. Now, the point here is that do not feel that you're grieving the process of the sadness that you're going through, the feeling of that loss that you're experiencing is any less than any one of those other losses. Now, it's important to recognize that and allow yourself to go through the grieving. And grieving is, like I said, is a very important process, because what it's telling us is that we're learning to accept it, we're learning to understand that the body is going to go through those different phases. You are a human being and you're going to have those set of emotions. And that is real, and that's important, because unless you face it, unless you allow it to rise and it has a natural process of it waning away, it will fall. And as it falls, you are left with wisdom. So coming out on the other side of it, allowing to go through the grieving process and knowing that there will be a net new resilience. You've been there, you've done that, now you're stronger, you're better, and you're capable of helping someone else who may be experiencing that sense of loss. Right? Pain comes as a great teacher, only if we're willing to take the lessons from it. So it's important to see what is it that we're going through and what does this come to teach me. Everybody at some point is going to experience loss. Life is transient. If there is one thing that's guaranteed that's going to end at some point in the way that we know it physically. When I talk about life, I'm talking about this phase that we are wearing this particular costume and this drama that we call life, in this particular role with these certain people, in certain responsibilities that we have. This is transient. It's been gifted to us. So the second thing that I ask you to notice is, let grief, let this loss come as a way to make you remember things that we need to be grateful for. Right? There is a word in India that we call Shamshani Vairag, very profound word. It literally translates to this phrase, cemetery distaste. Now, I know many of you would have not heard that phrase, but it's a very common thing in ancient Vedic text. So you know how we go about our life believing that there's never going to be an end, which is all about I, me, myself. We go about hoarding, accumulating, aggrandizing, indulging. And there comes that point when something snaps, when something breaks, when there's some loss. And when you have that loss of that loved one, loss of a loved thing, or loss of some, perhaps even health, may not be a loss like death, could be a disease, could be a loss of a job even. And what happens is when you have that facing with this new reality, there is a sense of momentary distaste. You begin to question, what is important in life? Why was I mindlessly going about pursuing those things, accumulating in that material pursuit of wealth and sensory pleasure? Right? You all experienced that at some point? So that phase is what we refer to as cemetery distaste. Now, there is a benefit to that, folks. There's an absolute tremendous value in that when you're experiencing that loss and when you have that reality check and know that everything is transient, that everything will be lost at some point, it's a moment for us to recall, what can we be grateful for right now? Make a list of those things for yourself. When you experience a loss of a loved one, what has that person left you with? What are the memories? What were the stories? What were the talents? What were the gifts? What are the virtues that rubbed off of you having spent time with the soul? Now that could be a gratitude list that you could make for yourself. Number 3, when you're experiencing loss, when you're experiencing sadness, there is a deep purpose with which our customs and rituals from around the world, whether you're Christian, Buddhist, atheist, what have you, we have the system of grieving together. There's a way in which when we have the loss of a loved one, we gather, we do ceremonies, we pray, we hold fast, we hold feasts, whatever the case may be in your culture. There's a role to that. There's a purpose that as we share with each other, as we see one another go through the grieving process, and we support one another to come out of this phase, there's a collective strength. There's a collective camaraderie. There's a bonding that happens. And there is a light at the end of the tunnel as you hold these other people, or as you're being held by other people to process this emotions that you're experiencing. Now, in the context of what we are facing right now, where we are socially separated, we're distanced, we're not allowed to convene, and the size of the gathering, even if you're allowed to convene, is limited to a very small number, what do you do at that time? This is where creativity comes into play. This is where it's important for us to find ways, technology being one of the greatest tools, right? So look at us. We're here gathering tonight on a Wednesday night, and there's people from literally from different parts of the globe coming together, coming and rallying around this topic that we're all interested in hearing and talking about. Similarly, when you have a literal physical loss of somebody, find ways through technology, through talents, through shared interests, through ways in which we can all contribute through that gathering and saying, how can we help each other to process this grief? Perhaps doing some e-journaling. Perhaps people have taken turns, the talking stick, passing it around and having different people share stories with that person or that situation, whatever that, if that's a person that you've lost or it's a company that's gone under. What were some memories that you would like to cherish? Maybe make a scrapbook out of it. Or have people come up, take turns, coordinate times in which you can all share poetry or some other stories, some things that will help you to process this loss. And so finding creative ways in the midst of this separation for us to keep the connection, for us to keep that bond, for us to keep that tribe, is a very important thing. Now, as much as these tips and tricks that I've shared with you so far are very applicable for adults, I want to take a few minutes to talk about how do you help children process grief and loss. Right? So we're all going through this. We're all having, experiences of some way, shape, or form, having felt disconnected, whether I said like it's a physical loss of a loved one or a loss of a comfortable environment that I felt myself very protected and held by. Right? So how is it different for children? Now, as you can imagine, they have a very, depending on, again, the age of the child, they have a different set of vocabulary or a different mechanism by which they were willing to understand and communicate. So the one thing that I ask that you do is find creative ways to allow them to first understand what's going on. So sitting with them and preparing them if it's something that we know is going to happen, or if it's something that has happened, helping them to correlate what has happened to their lives, and then helping them to express it in their own unique way. Sometimes it is through words, sometimes it's through pictures, sometimes it is through other creative forms, writing a short poetry, or making a song out of it. And then the next thing is a very, very important step, that just as much you are helping yourself, know that you're also helping those around you, especially young ones, little ones. I keep saying this in every one of my children's workshop. 80% of how your children learn comes from what they see, not from what they hear. Which means they see how you're dealing with it more than what you're telling them on how to deal with it. So as you apply the tools, whether this was something that you learned in this workshop or some of the tools that you already had, children are going to benefit from that. And then the third thing around helping children grieve and deal with loss is just simply spending more time. And I tell you folks, if there is one thing that I believe that Mother Nature has within it, the lesson embedded, baked into this whole pandemic that is now going on for almost 14 months, is that we need to learn to slow down. We need to learn to ask ourselves what's truly important, who really matters, right? And so taking the time to slow down and spending time with loved ones, especially little ones, is a very important process in helping them to deal with the loss and the grief. With that said, I want to switch this into a practice. So I want you to please feel comfortable with either your eyes closed or downshift your gaze. I'm going to play some soft music in the background. And we will move from the head and all of these different theories that I've shared with you into aspects of the heart through a meditation practice. Taking in some nice, comfortable breaths, allowing the body to relax completely as you're breathing in through the nostrils and exhaling from the mouth. And with each passing breath, allow the breath to be a medium by which you take your attention from the world outside, from all the sensory stimulation out there, into your world in here. Breathing in and out. And as you do so, loosening up your body, relaxing your muscles, starting from the top of the head, working your way through the core channel of the body, through all the muscle groups, going down, all the way down to your legs and your feet. Each passing breath, noticing the muscles, relaxing even further, letting go of any tightness in the body. Now I bring the focus of my attention to the soles of my feet. And I gradually bring it up through my legs until the hip region. And putting all my attention on the legs. Just my legs. And no other part of my body attracts my attention right now. Then I visualize my two legs covered with an orb of white, irradiant light. All the way from the soles of my feet up to my pelvis. Covered in white, irradiant light. And I now create a strong thought that only health should reign within my legs. Only health should reign within my legs. And I take my awareness upwards through the pelvis until I reach my abdomen. And I put my attention completely in the region of my abdomen, not allowing any other part of my body to attract my attention. And I observe white-blue light, a white-blue irradiant light in the form of a nebula. And I create a strong thought that full health should reign in my entire physical body. Full health should reign in my entire physical body. And I gradually move my awareness upwards into my chest region, near my heart. With my attention completely focused on the region of my heart, I visualize both inside and around my chest a white rose light. A white rose irradiant light in the form of a nebula at my heart center. And I create a strong thought that complete health will reign within my sentiments and emotions. Complete health will reign in my sentiments and emotions. And peace and tranquility will prevail in my mind. Peace and tranquility will prevail in my mind. Now, keeping the awareness of the white-blue light in the lower part of your body, the white rose light in the upper part of your abdomen, your chest region, until your neck. Take your attentions down your arms and allow your arms to be covered with white irradiant light. May complete health reign throughout my arms and hands. May complete health reign throughout my arms and hands. Now take your awareness upwards through the shoulders until you reach the head. And visualize a golden white light covering inside and outside the head. A golden white irradiant light fills and surrounds the head space. And I create the strong thought for complete health in my inner being, an ability to use my thoughts in the right way. Complete health within my inner being, an ability to use my thoughts in the right way. And with my mind's eye, I now see my entire body. The golden white light enveloping and surrounding the head. The white rose in and around my chest. The white-blue light surrounding the abdomen. And the white light surrounding and infiltrating my arms and my legs. I see my entire luminous body filled and surrounded by light. I, the conscious being, I'm at the center of this white light. I make a strong thought that this light will protect me from anything that could bring me harm. This light will protect me from anything that could bring me harm. Now allowing this radiance to flow out from you as an act of compassion towards someone, some people, or some place that needs it right now. May your healing energy bring tranquility, strength, and health to their bodies and minds. Now I bask under the light of the Supreme Being, the Supreme Soul, the being of unconditional divine love. And fill my reservoir of love. And let's bring our palms together at our heart center, rubbing the two palms to create an energy vortex. The palms are an energy center, and as you activate this energy centers, you're creating a concentration of chi, prana, life force. And once you feel the warmth of that kindling in between your palms, I want you to take it and cup both your eyes with each palm. Blessing yourself. May complete tranquility prevail in my mind. May complete health prevail in my body. May lightness prevail in my being. Bringing your palms back to the heart center in prayer position. Take a deep bow of gratitude for everyone and everything that has made this moment possible. And acknowledge for yourself, how do you feel right now? And if you could summarize how you feel right now in one word, what would that be? And I would like for you to please share that one word in the chat window. And I also want to take a moment here to express my deep felt gratitude for your donations. Your donations help me to continue doing this work in this particularly challenging time, this particularly challenging year. And there's a beautiful crew of folk that help me to do all the work, the editors, the video editor, the sound editor, my web designer, my social media person. So your donations go a long way in supporting this entire cast of characters. So thank you very much for that. So let's see what you have here. Grateful, peaceful, more peaceful. I'm feeling contribution, gratitude, hopeful, tranquility, really sad. And Gurpreet, that's okay. It's okay to recognize that sometimes even just feeling it is, they say, when you can name it, you can tame it. And again, I'm not trying to rush you to tame it. The point is recognizing what you're going through is an important part, rather than distracting yourself and saying, I don't want to deal with it. And that does not have very positive psychosomatic bearing on you. Important to experience, to understand, to recognize what you're going through. So that's fine. And thank you for your vulnerability and honesty about sharing how you feel right now. Sue is saying, I'm feeling amazed, I'm feeling shared feelings, I'm feeling frightened. Thank you, Sean. Thank you once again for sharing your vulnerability. I know these are very challenging times. And I tell you, not just the pandemic, but the whole political crises. And the last session, which I did a week ago, was around dealing with the racism. And so I did a meditation on Black Lives Matter, on All Lives Matter, on Asian hate, and just the whole idea of how we sense this, how we falsely begin to believe in this idea of separation, and how we can reintegrate our own understanding of ourselves. And that is basically, once we integrate with ourselves, and we automatically come in unison, come in harmony with Mother Nature, with all other beings. And really, this is the sense of oneness that we feel. So yes, I completely recognize and I honor that. So for those of you who would not participate, were not here last week, I tell you folks, that's a very important session that we did, healing the racial divide mindfully. That was the name of the topic, and it's recorded. It's available on my YouTube channel. For those of you who don't know, who are new to this thing, who have not come to any of my work before, just Google my name, Jay Chodagam, and you'll find all my resources, my website, which is Find Within, my YouTube channel, which has got, like I mentioned to you at the beginning, that we did about 75 episodes since the beginning of the pandemic, and we've covered all topics that you can possibly think of. And if you think of something that we haven't covered, please go ahead and post it on my circle or somewhere where I can remember it. So by the way, one of the things that I forgot to mention is when I was telling about, helping you to cope with your own grief and loss, and with that of your children, it's a very important step to find a routine. Yes, things have been thrown off kilter, things have been altered in ways in which we can't go back exactly to the ways that we used to and we're comfortable with, but then finding a rhythm. There's something about the human brain and it's finding its sense of comfort in when there is a predictability about my schedule, right? When you have a set of rituals, a set of tasks, calendar by which you operate, you begin to find yourself feeling very comfortable. That's a form of solace that you can offer to yourself. So please, I encourage you to develop that rhythm, whether that means, eating on time, sleeping on time, and waking up on time, working out, going for your walk on time, listening to these beautiful lectures that are available on this app on time, using the different meditations, etc. So let's see, Gurpreet is asking a question. Why do some people go through such devastating, life-changing losses and other families all recover? It feels unfair. Well, Gurpreet, I can give you a simple answer or I can give you a very profound answer. I don't know where you are in your ability to take my answer, but I'll just say that there is a meaning and a purpose. There is a reason, there's a rhythm, there's a rhyme and reason why pain comes. Pain comes as a teacher for all of us. It is the greatest teacher that tells us that something is off, something needs to be recalibrated, adjusted, redefined. Right? We need to find a way in which we have to reinvent how we're showing up in this world and how we're engaging. And I tell you, pain will not cease to exist until we've learned that lesson, until we've learned to accept that lesson that we have been shown. And then, like I said, when you go through the process, you build the resilience, you build the strength, you come out on the other side with the wisdom. So it is really coming here to teach us something, right? So that's the first simple thing that I can tell you. The more complicated thing, which is something that is very profound, is the whole idea of karma, right? As nothing comes for nothing. You must have heard the song as a child growing up. I certainly did. I've watched the movie Sound of Music 20 times. And that's one of those movies, and I know every child has their go-to movie they watch over and over again. For me, to Sound of Music. If you remember the famous words from that movie, nothing comes from nothing, nothing ever could. Sometime in my wicked life or childhood, I must have done something good. So that's a movie from Germany, but here's my philosophy from ancient Eastern books, in which it goes to show that everything that is coming back to us is coming full circle, right? Now, it's not in a way to condemn, it's not in a way to judge, but it's a question of understanding and reconciling with it. As I have sown, so I'm reaping. And that is for me to reconcile for myself. But then when I see other people going through it, I don't use that as a wisdom, as a nugget to judge upon them, but then I use that as a way to say, how can I help to alleviate that suffering that they're going through right now? So I've got a number of different articles I've written over the years on each of these subjects, on the karma, on what do you do when you see some other people going through karma, going through their own settlement, through their own learning process, through their own rebalancing. I think karma is maybe a complicated word, but if you think about it simply, it is rebalancing of energy. Energies in the world, right? Because everything reaches a state of ultimately equilibrium. So that's something for you to think about. And I know it's a very deep subject, especially when something is staring at you and pain is staring at you in your face. So Jesse's asking a question, when experiencing the different stages of grief, how do you suggest coping with the longing for someone you lost? Yes, that's a very good question. Well, the first thing is to remember what is it that that person would like to have experienced right now with you. Would that person would want to see you going through your tears, your agony, your suffering? Or would that person would love to see you reminiscing the lovely moments, the happy moments, the joyful, the memorable moments? Number two, what are some of the qualities when I think of that person, instead of it triggering anxiety and depression and sadness and so on, can I instead think about the positive qualities of this person? What are some of the virtue of this person? What are some of the talents of this person? So when I start rewiring my brain to associate that person's memory with, instead of just me thinking about the loss, but instead of thinking about the beautiful things that that person's left behind, for me to remember, to see them in that light. Right? So then if I learn to do that, then it'll help me to associate the remembering, the retracing of that memory of them with something which is a positive, joyful experience. And then ultimately, the biggest and the deepest lesson, which is a little bit more harder and more profound, is that everyone and everything is transient. So now, let me take this moment to cherish those that I do have around me. You know, how often does it happen to each one of us that we think and we grieve and we feel sad and we regret when the person is gone? But when the person is around, how much time did we actually spend Okay, sometimes it's not possible physically because of your distance, because of your circumstances, because of your family responsibilities, etc. But how many times did you call this person? How many times did you write a letter, an email, what have you? Did you take a moment to visit with this person? Okay. So, in other words, what I'm saying is taking moments to invest in people that are with you. Things in which you can invest in positive memories and experiences for where you can still help it. Right? Rather than regretting what could have been, should have been, etc. Inga's asking, any advice for healthcare workers? Oh my God, folks, I tell you, this is one of the toughest things. This is one of the toughest things for healthcare workers to experience a daily sense of loss. Is this our karma playing out now? Oh my God, Inga, absolutely not. This is actually your karma that you're investing in now. It's your positive, good deeds that you will reap for lifetimes. And I say that with plural. Now and forever. Thanks to people like you who take this effort to pull yourself up, to pick yourself up regardless of the trauma, the loss, the pain, the suffering that you are seeing in and around you every day. You show up. And it's because of people like you, brave people like you, talented, loving, beautiful people like you, that some of us are able to come out of this hospital. Some of us are able to have the hope. Even if you're not sick, it's your presence is giving us family members, giving us a sense of faith that there's light at the end of the tunnel. So all of these are multi-million-fold blessings that are coming at you and your colleagues and people like you in your profession. This is your good karma. This is your good fortune, right? And you're taking the pain to wade through this very deep, thick crisis that we find ourselves in. No, please recognize that. Now, having said that, I'm going to share with you some tips that are very important for you as somebody who's a healthcare provider. First of all, your emotional well-being. There is this famous adage that says you can only pour what's in your cup. And remember, as a healthcare provider, people don't just come to you for getting a vaccine, getting bandages, getting some, physical care. They're coming to you for also emotional support, emotional solace. They're looking up to you for spiritual strength. And for you to be able to give to those people that emotional, spiritual support, you need to be having to replenish yourself constantly. And so it's very important, as you're doing right now, and I commend you for that, to taking time. I know that you guys are so overworked, you're so spread thin, that for every single moment where you're off duty, you might want to just go and sleep and crash. But I appreciate you taking the time to be in this session, because these are the times, these are the moments, these are the skills with which you can replenish your teacup. And yes, there's not going to be Jay's live meditation session every single day, but hopefully you've gathered enough tools today where you can take this practice offline, where these are the training wheels, but you should be able to run without the training wheels on your own. When you get those 5 minutes between shifts, between patients, and get back into that center, reconnect, fill yourself, fill your teacup. Very important thing. And then the next thing I'd like to say is the importance of dealing with this as a group. We have a beautiful story here in Oakland at the hospital when the whole George Floyd thing happened last year. The entire cast of the team, the doctors and the nurses, all of the medical staff came out into the open, into the parking lot, and they knelt for 8 minutes and 38 seconds. They all took to their knees for 8 minutes and 38 seconds and expressed the process of, but by the way, that 8 minutes 38 seconds was the time in which Derek Chauvin, the police officer who sat with his knee on George Floyd's neck. And so this was their way of expressing solidarity. For standing there for that time, for kneeling there, for being there for that 8 minutes and 38 seconds, to feel what it might have felt like to be at the receiving end of that punishment, the cruelty, that mindlessness. And there were tears. There was a feeling, a deep sense, a collective feeling of participating in a ritual, which built a great amount of solidarity and kinship between that staff, which otherwise, everybody's just going about running their duty. They're doing a job. But when you take moments like this, it's a very creative, it's a very off the beaten path ritual. But rituals are meant to do things like this. It's meant to create those bonds. That's why they exist in all cultures around the world. And we are straying away from these traditional techniques in which we have bonded. We've strengthened ourselves. We've found collective spirit, collective strength, a collective sense of compassion and a comfort as we're wading through these difficult times. We've veered away from it. So we need to create new ones that are adaptable to these times, that are suitable in these circumstances that we find ourselves in. So be creative about it. So it's important for you to share this with your community of healthcare workers. Thank you for that question. Very, very important. So let's see. So I'm going to make this the last question because we've already taken a lot of time, but I appreciate you guys sticking in here. So Seth is asking the question, every painful situation that comes up in our lives are karma? Well, okay, so there's a question that I ask, and you will appreciate this question. So when I was training as a monk for those 18 years, I was in the presence of this very powerful spiritual woman who was passing through California. And I asked her this question. I said, what is the difference between when you experience something, some pain, and you're asking yourself, is it the settlement of old karma or the creation of new karma, right? So when there's a situation being played out between two individuals, right? So you've got to have to say that's two sides to the coin. One is that, is this old baggage that you're dealing with and you're reconciling, you're ending that, or is it the creation of the new? Are you creating karmic debt? So the answer that this wise woman gave will address your question, I believe, Seth. So she said, when you experience a sense of, in a state of equanimity as you're going through this hardship, when people around you look at you and say, oh my God, this is so terrible, but inside your heart you just feel like, I'm just dealing with it. It's something that I need to do and I'm going through it. That is when you know that you're settling old karma. Versus when you find yourself being dragged by the leash, you find yourself kicking and screaming as you're going through a situation, you or the other person that you're interacting with is kicking and screaming, and there is this very, very painful, clearly visible unpleasantry. Perhaps that is a sign of creation of fresh accounts. So Jesse is saying, deepest prayers for all health workers throughout our world sacrificing themselves in the noble effort to help save others from this devastation. Yes, indeed. Thank you. Can you expand on that, please? Susan, I will take another time. I've already extended the session by 20 minutes, and I appreciate every one of you. There's 120 of you here hanging in here with me, and I deep bow of gratitude for all of you for participating, for being part of my healing circle, for being part of my soul tribe, for some of you who've been doing this for almost a year, for some of you who might be here for the very first time. I thank you for being part of this conversation, being part of this prayer, the meditation, the questions, the conversation, all of it. And like I said, you can join me on my circle, Meditate with Jay. By the way, the app has just released my mentoring program, so I'm available for one-on-one mentoring on this app. I highly suggest you go check it out. I have one-off sessions, but what I'm most interested in is the sets of 3s and the sets of 6 sessions, which is really, that's where we can do the deep work. Because as you know, things that are need true transformation, that require real deep work, which will have real positive changes that you can reap from, require you investing the kind of time. So that's why I've offered these 3 and set of 6 packages. Also, some of you are part of my mailing list have received the message that I've just yesterday announced, just to save a date. We're working out all the details, but I'm going to be doing my first retreat in person, again, from demand from folks like you. Some people reached out. My email list reached out to me and asked me when am I going to be doing the next one. People are really tired of, grieving and experiencing this isolation for this last 1 year by themselves. And so we're going to be doing the first in-person retreat here in Northern California in the beautiful Marin County at the Banyan Grove Retreat Center. Just an amazing set of people who host that retreat center, coming from a deep place of compassion. And so we're going to be doing it very small. It's going to be very limited edition because, we just want to ease into this thing. It's 18 people max, and it's going to be only for those of us who've had both our vaccines or had the J&J one-shot vaccine, who are completely vaccinated. And the retreat is going to include meditation, of course, pranayama, of course, hatha yoga, but also we're going to be meditating in Redwood Grove. We're going to be taking beautiful walks at Point Reyes on the beach for sunset. We have a hot tub, we have a cold plunge, we have a beautiful deck where we're doing sunrise meditations on the property, and all of the meals for those 3 days. So it's going to start on Friday evening, July 2nd at 6 p.m. It's going to start with a communal dinner and end after brunch on Monday, which is July 5th, which is a holiday for us here in USA. And all of the meals are going to come from one of the best vegan chefs here in Northern California, Margarita's Kitchen. And it's just going to be a beautiful, beautiful way for us to enter back into the world, of us to be able to hold space. There's a lot of space. We're not packing the retreat center, so the rooms are going to be sparsely populated. All of our gatherings could be done off in the open, but also they have this beautiful big Sangha halls with plenty of ventilation and plenty of social distancing, even if we're doing things, because they're in July 4th weekend. As you can imagine, the sun is going to be beating down straight up from above. So we are planning for all of that. Stay tuned. Again, if you want to know how to reach me on that for this retreat, my website is the best way, Find Within. So that's FINDWITH.IN. So it's a play on that word, Find Within. And if you Google my name again, Jay Chodagam, you'll find my website. Sign up for the newsletter. And like I said, this is just to save the date. Details to be announced, exact pricing and all of that will be coming out soon. There's not a registration link yet, but you will be given all of that if you please find a way to keep in touch with me. So with that said, I thank you all for being here. I wish you well. I wish you stay positive, stay healthy, stay happy, and go shine your light.